you go on social and like you'd never communicate with somebody like that in real life, right?
Ever.
You wouldn't have that tone. You wouldn't be a because you'd probably get slapped, like, you know.
Hello and welcome to the Physical Preparation Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Robertson, and man, do I have an episode for you here today. I don't even know how to describe this. Is it my show? Sort of. Is it my brother Luka Hocevar's show? Sort of. So let me just give you a little context here, and then I'll explain what the show is all about. So this past weekend, got to go hang out with my guy Luka at his beautiful gym, Vigor Ground in Seattle, and give one of my complete coach seminars. They're such fun events. I really like diving in, spending that time live and in person with the attendees to really help them better understand assessments, coaching, cueing, program design. And it's not only fun because we get to have these dynamic interactions, but I feel like when you're in person, you just learn so much better. So you would think after 2.5 days of presenting, working really, really hard, I go to lunch with people, I go to dinner with people, like it is 2.5 full days. You'd think that I would get Sunday afternoon off, but if you thought that, you don't know Luka. So 2.5 days in, Luka's like, hey man, I got a videographer coming. Let's shoot a podcast. Let's shoot some vlogs. Like, let's keep going. I was like, all right, man, let's go. Like, who needs sleep, right? I got a red eye back. I'm going to work tomorrow. Who needs sleep? Let's do it. So what we start doing is just riffing and we start brainstorming. And I came up with some questions that, I thought I would like to answer and would be fun for me to answer. And I'd also wanted to hear his answers on. So the way I dubbed this, or the way I titled this show, is Mike and Luka on wins, losses, and playing the long game in the fitness industry. And if you look at the show notes, I think there's 5, maybe 6 questions in total. And the show itself is probably north of 90 minutes. So, man, we just riff on each other. I love talking to Luka. I love getting his thought process. And I just love the back and forth. He and I can riff. We can go on and on. But, man, I think there's some really valuable information in this show. And most importantly, I share some stuff that, I don't really put out there all that often about my past, about some of the real losses that I took early on in the industry and the things that have helped shape and form me. So while it's not your traditional X's and O's type podcast, I think the stories and I think the emotion that comes out in some of these moments here is really valuable. So we're going to take a quick break and then we're going to jump into this awesome episode with my guy, myself, and Luka. Actually, one other thing before we go to our little break. Just so you know and are aware, sometimes Luka brings out the foul mouth in me. So the language in this one, as always, anytime me and Luka are around each other, is a little bit more colorful than usual. I feel like we earned the E on this episode of the podcast. So if you're around young ears, you may want to pause this one for a little while, or at the very least, put some headphones in. So quick break, and then we'll jump into this awesome episode. Did you know that in any given year, 40% of the trainers and coaches in our industry will leave our industry? Maybe that's why it seems like almost every day I talk to trainers and coaches who are frustrated. Maybe they're frustrated with the results they're getting. Maybe they're frustrated because they don't have trusted resources to learn from. And maybe they're frustrated because they simply don't have enough clients and wonder how long they'll be able to stay in the industry. So if this sounds anything like you, let me tell you how I can help. My Complete Coach certification was created for trainers and coaches just like you. People who are serious about the results they get and know that becoming a better coach can directly translate to a bigger bottom line. This certification is going to take the last 20 plus years of my life's work and put it all into one massive course. In the cert, you'll learn how to use my R7 system to create seamless, integrated, and efficient programs for clients and athletes of all shapes and sizes. You'll learn the exact progressions, regressions, and coaching cues I use in the gym to help your clients squat, hinge, press, and pull with awesome technique. You'll learn my streamlined assessment process that will help you determine the exact movements your clients should be performing when they come in the gym And last but not least, you'll learn how to create relationships and build rapport with virtually everyone you train so you can get the best possible results. Of course, there's a lot more that I cover, but that should give you a pretty good idea of what the cert is all about. Now here's the thing, spots for the cert only open twice per year for a limited time. But if you join my free insiders list now, you'll be able to save $200 when my next group opens. To get on the insiders list, just head over to CompleteCoachCertification.com. Again, that's CompleteCoachCertification.com, and then stay tuned for our launch emails very soon. Thank you so much for your support, and I hope you'll join us when the next Complete Coach Certification launches.
We're here with a collabo podcast. It's not an either or, it's an and. With my brother, Mike Robertson. So essentially, like I'm on his show, but he's on my show. I don't know.
Yeah. Whose show are we on? It doesn't matter.
It's both. But it's like, we just had the complete coach certification here at Vigor Ground, which, by the way, everybody should do. If you're a coach, absolutely, yes. You should do a great weekend. So much hands-on stuff. I think that the benefit, we were just talking about this, like the benefits of the live events and being able to spend time with the coach and kind of like diving into their philosophy, I think it's priceless. Look, I think that, the world having so much stuff online and courses, I think they're great, in which, by the way, your course is online, so you can get it there. But there's just a component to it, like when we're breaking down all the movements, and then you got 10 follow-up questions, and then we're literally writing programs in real time for people that, what's the troubleshoot here? What would you do here? Why would you do this here? What about if I'm doing it like this? I mean, that's the stuff that like you just can't, you can't make up, right? You can't make up on it online. So I think that was powerful. But every time you're here, we got to do we got to do a show. We got to do as much content as possible. So here we are. But there's a bunch of topics that we want to talk about today. So I wanted you to start on this, and then it's going to go where it's going to go, baby.
Yep.
So where did you want to start, Mike? Where did you want to start?
Well, I think we need to give them the background story of how these questions came about.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that.
So at the course, one of the big things that we like to do is make it a family feel, right? So we go to dinner, we break bread, do all those things. It's not just go to the course, go sit in your hotel room, we try and get out and do stuff. The good stuff happens after. We all know that. So last night, vibe was very right. Looking at beautiful Lake Washington. Chuck is killing it on Purple Rain on karaoke.
Karaoke night.
And man, the old fashions were going down smooth. And so I'm like, no, here are some topics that we need to talk about. And I think we could sit here and talk X's and O's, technical stuff, and there's a time and a place for that. But I think of this as trading war stories, right? You remember the old Tupac song, Trading War Stories?
You better know that, by the way.
If you don't, go listen to that, then come back. But people want to know, when you've done this for 20 years, that you're not like Superman, right? You're not perfect. You've caught some L's along the way. And I think people really resonate with hearing other people's stories. So I think we both have the questions here, but one of the main things I wanted to ask you is, how many years? 20? Are you 20 years?
Or close? 18 plus.
Okay.
18 plus. 18
years in this game. What's the advice you wish you got when you started out? Wise old Al comes to 22-year-old Luka, this is what I need you to do to be successful in the fitness industry.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to have to kind of reframe some things here because, it's always like the question, would you change anything? I like that you asked it differently because if I changed it, I wouldn't be where I am. I can guarantee you that there's certain, parts that slow things down for me. This will be an answer I think maybe people won't expect, but working on being a better human being, because when I was 22, when I was in that that age, and it's like you just continue to believe that like you really like have all this wisdom that you don't have, you know, and it's like I know better. So that's part of it, right? So it's like because we've talked about this before when it comes to coaching, right? Like, so I really believe that if I could have found a mentor that would have helped me as a person, forget about the coaching part of it, right? Like the X's and O's and like, program design and like, these are the things you got to do, marketing and to connect better with people. Like for somebody to be like, helping Luka be a better person, and guiding me. And I'm not saying that there were not people in my life that were doing that. We obviously can reject those people, right. or bring them in.
Yep.
But I do feel that there were some critical points in my life there that would have been huge. And so now looking back at it, like even as somebody that mentors a lot of people, I do my best to be that person, because there was personal decisions that I made that essentially kind of fucked up some of my career moves, right? Or should I say progress, obstacles. So I would say that's a big one. Is when you are, we talk about this like hunting for skill sets and collecting role models. It's like finding role models earlier than you think. You put it this way, with somebody that's like 40, 50, 60, 70, that has all this stuff, like listen to them. You know what I mean? Like you have cognitive dissonance at a level that you can't imagine, right? About life, right? About life. And so I think that if you can be open, just if you're listening to this, to be open to the fact that like you may really not know that much, and that there's people that can guide you through this and give you some direction, a compass. Call it a compass, right? And like and what I like to say about a compass is that if you've ever had a compass and you're in the woods and stuff, like it never, the needle isn't straight. It kind of wobbles, right? Left to right.
It's a good analogy.
But, and that's kind of like life. You do dumb stuff. But the thing is, as long as you can keep coming back to true north, you're going in the right direction. I know that like in that age, in that, honestly, it was like 22 to like 30, there's a bunch of times where like, it's like I lost my compass, right? Like, and I was not going, it wasn't wobbly. That shit just went south,
Wrong way.
They went the wrong way. And I feel that if, I had, number one, listened more, right? I've been more open to it, which is why I'm sharing this now. But also, if I allowed somebody in my life that would have been more of a guide to life versus just like how to make money, how to be, the best trainer and get the best results and all that stuff. I would have certainly not have to have as much pain, right?
Yeah.
I would say that's definitely one thing. The other one would be patience. And I would do everything with like this kind of bat out of hell, intensity, but and maybe there's nothing wrong about that when you're kind of in that age, but it was also like I was wanting the result. So like I was like,
it's outcome driven, right?
Yeah, it was outcome driven, and everything was just like a sprint, and like I guess what happened. It made the journey not be as enjoyable, right? Like, because you're just, the word grind and hustle, and I know it's overused, but it was like nonstop, and I just didn't get to enjoy the process as much, right? And it's like there's a saying, it's like there's no happy ending to unhappy journey, right? And it made me think about it. So that's the example of that would be like somebody that's grinding out for 15 years, hating what they do, and then I don't know, they sell their company for 20 million, right? And usually they won't be happy at that point in time. It's like 15 years of like I hated everything that I did. Yeah. So that's to me is versus like would I rather have 15 years of hard work, and you're gonna have your obstacles, but man, like you love what you do. And maybe you don't make the 20 million, you make less, but you've enjoyed every part of the journey. You're in a good place. You don't want to necessarily end because you love the journey. Right. Like, who's the winner in life? Yeah, sure. And it's like, I can tell you right now, the winner is, the person that's enjoying the journey and continuing to want to be on this, infinite game that we're on. Yep. So I think those are probably my two biggest ones that don't, go into like, again, I'm glad that you said like, the X's and O's. Like, we could talk X's and O's all day long. Maybe we'll throw some tactical things in there, but it's sometimes, I get pretty repetitive these days, and I'm not mad at it at all. As I always said, what it was about probably 6 years ago, I spent a whole bunch of time with Gary Vee, and he's like, Luka, I say like the same 5 things a million times over, you know what I mean? Like, and it's I just tell, there's different ways that I tell the stories about these 5 things. And, you know, one of the things that I consistently riff on is like, man, find your people in your community as soon as possible.
Yep.
You know, so if you're like, here's who I want to be, here's who I want to become, this is what I want to build, find the people that have done that, but that also you associate with their values, right? So for example, if you're like, oh, I want to, you know, blow up this company like XYZ guy did, but they're doing some shady shit and I don't like the way that they live and they believe in this and I don't. That's probably not a great person to, you know, emulate. And I forgot who said this. It's like, don't try to, you know, emulate anybody's life that you wouldn't switch with, you know, today.
Ooh, yeah, that's good.
And
that's good.
It's like, because you might, you know, like, oh, I like the cars. No. But you wouldn't want to switch that life, you know. Do you want to work this many hours a week? Do you want to, right? And again, so then find those type of people that do resonate with you on the, you know, how they're making their money, what type of business they're building, what type of human beings are they, what they believe in. And then the sooner you find those communities, the better. And then that becomes part of your compass, right? Because if you're in those communities and those people care about you and love you and you care about them and love them, what starts happening? It's like, you know, I'd be like, hey, Mike, let me talk to you about something. There's some, you know, you're doing some shit that's not good for you, dude. Like, I'm just going to let you know as my brother, bro, like, I'm going to tell you, like, you know, and now you get that true north, you know, that wobbly needle that takes you forward. And so, I keep repeating this over and over and over again. And it, you know why? Because it continues to evolve, right? So you continue to add good people to your circle. And it's kind of like, what do you call it? Nutritional displacement. You know, when I talk about people's nutrition habits, like you add more protein, they stop being able to eat as many calories of other stuff because you're full, right? So it's like, add better people, automatically it's going to push out some other people that are like more on the edge of that negativity. So you keep doing that. You know, you keep adding better people, and when you have contrast of somebody that's really good for you, it makes it way clearer who's not good for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Until you don't add that, right? It's kind of like, you know, that's my story, but when I was sleeping 3 to 4 hours a night, that's all I knew. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm still gonna go train. I'm still gonna go work all day. I'm still gonna, you know. Then I hit the wall, and then I started having good nights of sleep because I was like, all right, I'm gonna get my sleep right. And then after a while, I was like, oh my God, this is what it feels like to get a full night's sleep. This is I had the contrast, and then you don't want to go back. You know, like. So I think it's the same thing here. Is like when you go even like an event like this, right, or you go and you see like all these people helping you, all these people positive and uplifting and trying to do great things in industry and open to learning, even if they've been doing it for a long time. And you go like, wow, man, I like this community. You know, the community I'm around is always complaining, talking shit about others, pointing fingers. It's, you know, it's the owner's fault, it's this person's fault, it's that person's fault, it's my parents' fault, everything's a problem. And you go like, damn, this shit is toxic. I feel like my energy drained. I just came from this thing and this thing gave me energy. I want more of that. Great. Now you know, right? And so it's just a process of constantly finding those tribes and building those tribes. And I legitimately think that's one of the most powerful things that you can do. Yeah. And you know, looking back, the biggest lesson is like that, you know, guidance in life, not just the skill set and career side of things. I think that's important, but the life part of it too. And then finding these communities that become, you know, the true north of where you want to go.
Right. Man, that's a great answer, dude.
I know that wasn't a short one, but damn.
Bro, that was a great answer. Man. And just to kind of put some of my own thoughts into this, like, because I was thinking about these, like, okay, well, what would my answer be, right? Yep. You know, I got Luka. What would my answer be? And it's like a lot of the same themes, right? Number one, be patient. You'll get where you're supposed to be. But at the same time, having that work ethic, right? And having that hustle, because this is something you and I share, maybe not to quite the same degree, but we love to work, right? Like we love to work, we enjoy our work, we're passionate about it. And we see too many people, I think these days, and here's the contrast, right? You got to work hard in the short term while playing the long game, And most people don't understand that dichotomy, right? It's like,
yeah. And I want you to explain that, because I think that's good. It's good for people to hear what that means.
So some people just think, well, I'm not good now, but in 20 years I'll be good. So they're not doing anything in the short term to make themselves better, and they just hope by virtue of time and hanging out long enough, you're good. But
that's not the case.
It's not. That's the person that spends 20 years living the same year 20 different times, right? It's just like Groundhog's Day, time and time again.
Because you're saying, I want to bring that up, because we were actually talking about this in the lobby, right? Like the example would be, if you get triggered by this, good. This podcast is not for people that like are trying to avoid, put it this way, if you're avoiding uncomfort, it's not for you. but it's true, right? Like for instance, I said events, when we have events here in Seattle, there's so few coaches from Seattle that come, and to me it's sad, right? Because it's like you have an opportunity to get better, right? Yeah. It's like 80 to 90% of people are like from Georgia, from overseas. I mean, we had people from India come to the summit. Yeah. I'm like, hey, raise your hand if you're from Seattle. We have 240 people in the crowd, and it's like 20 people, maybe 30 people. It's crazy, right? And it's like, I know there's thousands of coaches here, but to get to that point, it's like it's like when somebody says, oh yeah, I've been doing this for XYZ. That could mean nothing. And a great example of this is a story that Craig Weller told. I don't know if you know Craig, right? Yeah. And when Craig was, I think when he was still, I think he still is with Precision Nutrition, but it was like his story about surfing. And he said, well, I've been doing surfing this is what my thought process was. I've been doing surfing for 6 to 7 years. So man, I'm pretty good. And then he went to a surfing camp for a week, and he improved like 10 times more. I mean, he got 10 times better in 1 week. And he realized, he said, well, what I was doing is nobody was guiding me and mentoring me. I wasn't getting coached. I wasn't getting better. Right. So what I was doing, I was getting very good at repeating the mistakes that got me stuck. Right? And so to me, and I'm going to speak for coaches in the industry, this could go for anywhere in life, I believe though, is that, you're like, oh, I'm doing it, but you're doing things that aren't really that good or mediocre. And you're doing them very often. And you're actually repeating them so much that now you're getting very good at mediocrity and going like, yeah, but I have experience. But it's like, yes, but you have experience in mediocrity. Or maybe it's even worse, and it's like you have experience in not being good. And to me, the thing that I'm always going to come back to, if somebody goes like, well, how would I know that? I'm like, listen, what's the last book you read? Did you do the course? Do you go to certifications? Do you get around people? Do you intern? Are you seeking that? Like, not just are you open to feedback? Are you seeking feedback? Are you going like, here's my program, and then somebody goes, why did you write this program? Why are you thinking like this? Why are you? And you're like, well, right now now you're seeking it. Now the person might be like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, let's break it down. Let's help you get better. So if you're not doing that, like your years of experience could just be years of experience doing something that's not that great. Yeah. So I just wanted to riff on that because we're talking about that. And I wanted to use that example because, man, like there's a bunch of stuff in my life that I was like, yeah, I'm doing it, right? For basketball, there was a coach that came to me and was like, I would used to shoot all these shots. And he said, how many shots do you make? I was like, I don't know, man. I'm just going for 500, taking 500 shots per day. I was like, well, you might be practicing like making 50%. Like, that's not great. Right. Why don't you go closer to the basket, make every shot, make 95% of them, then step back, then step back, then step back. And then when you're at the 3 and you make 90% of them, then add a dribble, a difficulty, somebody bumping you, right? It's like, it's that progressive model that we use in everything, right? But he broke it and he was like, and then count your makes and then count your percentages. And it was just like, oh shit, like I might have. Big shift in mindset. Right? And because you come to, it's I was talking to a kid not that long ago, but it was, at the gym, LA Fitness. And, we were playing runs and whatnot, but he's practicing stuff. He's like, yeah, I'm here for hours, but I'm watching him, right? Yeah. And I'm like, it's sloppy. It's like, you're not practicing. Like, you're there for 3 hours believing that you're getting better, but it's like lackadaisical shots, not under a certain intensity, not focused. I'm like, you could have done that training session in 45 minutes and would have been 10 times better, right? Because you have intent, you have focus, you know what you're working on, what's your weakness, how do you break it down? So you get a lot of this in fitness. You get, people are showing up at the gym, man, I had 10 clients today. If I videoed those sessions, a little bit on the phone here, joking around, not preparing to have a great session, not preparing for their program design, not preparing for the changes they need to make, not doing good follow-up. So here we are, like you're just basically, you're not getting better, right?
You're just punching the clock.
You're punching the clock, so that experience is actually not hurtful. Like, so somebody that's like very focused for 2 years could like run circles around you when you've been in it for 8, right? And that's harsh. That's why I said, hey, listen, trigger warning. You know what I mean? Like, but it's true, and we have to all like analyze that and kind of become self-aware, which I think the right communities, again, right, the right people, the right tribes can bring that to the forefront. Because I know I've gone to events or I've been in mentorships when I've seen somebody do something exceptionally well, and my first thought was like, oh shit, I suck. I thought it was good, I suck. Maybe that was a little aggressive, but it was like, I saw what elite looked like, and then it was like, golly, man, I gotta get better. And that person was there to help me and, take me from, as Dave Tate would say, shit, suck, good, great.
Right.
Take me from shit to suck, from suck to good. But it again, like, how do you even have a mirror up to what reality is, right? And I think we all need that. We all need that in all different areas of our life, and we should seek it out. And that's more than my 2 cents right there, Mike. But
but it brings up 2 good points that we keep coming back to. Like, one, getting coaching in some way, shape, or form, right? So whatever is important to you, you should be getting coached on it. If it's your training, your nutrition, if you've got mental health stuff, go see a therapist. We all need coaches. We all need coaches. Yeah. That's number 1. Number 2 is constantly leveling up the circle that you're in, right? Because if you're still hanging out at 42 with the people you started off with when you're 22, unless that circle is really evolving at a high level, I mean, you're not getting where you want to in life. And it's a sad thing. Like, I mean, think back to when you were 22 and think about some of the amazing times you had, the amazing friends. And we can still think about that in a joyful way and think about how amazing those times were. But man, I just have certain goals and aspirations in my life. And so you just get to that point where it's like, look, man, I'm leveling up. I'm going to try and make the most out of myself, my career, my family. So the people that are around me have to support that in a positive way. And if they don't, man, I'm sorry. Like, we just can't rock like we
And I see, the thing is, I always am like, I'll leave a rope, right? Like, hey, I'm going up here. If you want to come with me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here to support that all day long, right? I think the biggest key is to just not have people pull you down.
Yeah, that's a big
If you don't want to go here, that's okay. That's your choice.
Yep.
And like, I'm leaving a rope for you to climb up here, but if you start pulling me down, I'm cutting. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that. That's the, like, if you start pulling me down, I'm gonna cut it. I'm letting you know that right now.
Yep.
And I speak from experience, because every single thing that I'm saying, you started off with, what would you change, or what are the biggest lessons? And I don't think anybody, goes through life without learning the lessons painfully.
Yeah.
My hope would be is that you cut down on that, right?
Yeah.
And have you ever heard of the karmic loop?
No, but I can imagine what it is.
Okay, so but it's like it's this idea that it's that when I give you the visual of this, I think it will be helpful. So I bring it up because some people get stuck in it. So imagine that there's an event that happens. Usually the event is negative. Okay. Something happens in your life. I don't know. I'll make it about the gym, and you lose a whole bunch of members.
Right.
So it's like, boom, event, you lose a bunch of members. And then it's like, obviously, you drop down into this mental, like, the pit, let's call
wasteland.
it the pit.
Yes.
Right? Like, now in the pit, there's a lesson. Okay.
Sure.
I'm going to give you both scenarios, right?
Yep.
Boom, you drop down into the pit. Now, you may avoid the lesson, right? Either because of your ego, you want to avoid discomfort, you don't ask yourself the right questions, you don't have the right people around you to guide you and go like, hey, maybe you should pay attention to this stuff, right?
Right.
And with time, even when bad things happen, with time it gets better. Now, but the thing is, if you don't learn the lesson, this is the karmic loop, right? You go right back to where you were, and then there's going to be another event. There's going to be similar because you didn't learn a lesson, and bam, you go down to the pit.
Right.
And then time goes by, and the thing is, and most people that are listening, you might even be like, shit.
Right.
For instance, getting healthier, dropping body fat, improving your blood work, right? It's like it keeps repeating itself. You do some diet and like
that's the first thing I think of, right? Is weight loss.
Weight
I
loss,
dropped
right?
10 pounds, but I did it in an
It was unsustainable
way. I put it back on.
Correct.
+2.
For example, right? That would be one of those, and we could go over a million examples. Like I've had that in my relationships, and I've had it everywhere, right? But if you learn the lesson at the bottom of the pit, that's like the aha moment, the awareness, like, oh, this is the lesson. Now you skyrocket. It's kind of like in training where you have you overreach and then you have super compensation, right? Like that's the super compensation. You learn a lesson, and like just like if you're in a video game, you elevate to a new level. Right, and you look down at the problem they used to have, and you go like, look at that problem, right? Like,
yeah, that's easy.
And the thing, but now, new levels, new devils. There's something new you're gonna face, and so that to me is like, such at the bottom of the pit. The things that we've talked about, mentors, communities, tribes, self-awareness. Whether that's through reading, listening to podcasts, dropping your ego, which is all work. It's all work. Like. That's how you continue to elevate. Now, what we're discussing here and what my hope is, my goal, whether it's podcasts, whether it's vlogs, whether it's in-person mentorship, is to help people have as little of those karmic loops as possible and as many revelations, because nobody's going to get through life like not having pain and having fuck ups and everything else. But like, man, if you can cut them down by 50%, I'll tell you what. Instead of whatever amount of time it took me to get to a certain place, you can actually chop it down in half, right? And so that's, I think, the goal of, what's that saying? It's like the purpose of life is to find your gift and develop your gift, right? And the meaning of life is to give your gift away. I feel like I'm in this phase, first of all, never stop developing, but, the reason why the podcast and so much content, because sometimes people are like, oh, like you're in the content game and you want to make money through that. And it's like, I'm not saying that I don't, and it's like a bad thing, but I'm not driven by that. It's like the giving it away and going like, oh my God, like look at all the stuff that I did and how much I fucked up. I think like I get a lot of fulfillment, right, by helping somebody, there's like people
Think about how many good comments you get, right? Like I noticed that, like how many people are like, yo, Luka, this is huge. Like what a big difference this made.
God,
how impactful you've been on my programming or how my body feels. Like that's worth it in and of itself.
And it's like selfish or not, right? Here's the thing too, right? Like I think at the end of the day, it fuels us. I mean, in a selfish way, I would rather have that as my fuel and like my feel good than something negative, right? So it's like, oh, I'm helping other people. And I am hooked on, like, I don't, you've been doing this for a really long time, like I have. And I was just, somebody asked, how long have you known Mike? And I was like, I've legitimately known Mike for like 16 years.
Yeah.
I think,
it's been a long time.
When we started in that mastermind, it must have been like 15 years ago or something like that. And, I, to this day, don't ever get a different, more, I would say, watered down feeling when somebody goes like, hey, listen, man, like if I didn't come here to Vigor, if I didn't start training with you, if you didn't, like, I don't know where my life would be. Like, here's what you helped me do. I'll still get emotional, and it's like, it's the same feeling, it's not like caffeine where you get used to it and I can drink 5 times more now and there's tolerance, like,
right.
And so, maybe part of it is chasing that feeling, but that, that word, meaning and fulfillment, and you said, hey, like we like to work hard, but it's like when you love what you do, when you have, and not just when you love what you do, when there's something that you're like, it's pulling you. It's not. You're not being pushed by money. That it's pulling you. And I know that like it's very easy for this shit to sound corny, right? But you get like when you've done something in your life, you get that feeling. That's what pulled me out of a bad place when I stopped playing pro sports, and I'd coach people. And I'd make no money at that point in time, and somebody'd be like, man, that was such a great session. I feel so amazing. Thank you. Like, and I was just like, oh my God, the feeling that I get from that. And that got me hooked. And it's like, it's never stopped, So I think that, again, finding, and again, to reiterate this, you don't find purpose, right? You forge it, which is a question for you, because I've shared this quite a few times, but when for you was it the time where you were like, all right, I'm going to go all in on this? right? But it's not like you loved it, because I know, you started in rehab, right? And then PT, and I mean, I would assume not things that you were like, I'm fired up this morning to go
Right.
and treat this, and some people are, but I'm saying, like, I know that you weren't.
Yeah.
At what point do you go, this is my path, even though I don't feel super skilled and confident in it, but I'm going to forge, and maybe you didn't think that at that time, but like, I'm going to forge this, this purpose.
Man, probably earlier than most would expect. Like, I remember being like a sophomore or junior in college, right? And I just met Jess, my girlfriend at the time, my now wife of many, many years. And I just remember telling her, like, look, when I grow up, I'm going to be a trainer and I'm going to have my own gym and all this stuff. Like, I had that vision. Now, it took a long time to cultivate it and bring it to fruition. But that vision is what kept me going, right? Because look, like, those years in Fort Wayne, man, it was a time, it was an energy suck. There was a lot of, like, just negativity. I mean, you talk about just bad vibes, bad juju in the workplace. It was not fun. So the things that pulled me through were, okay, one, I knew I really sucked at rehab, like really bad. And just my personality, I don't deal well with sucking. So I'm going to be here. I'm going to be the best rehab person I can be. And not maybe for all time, but every day I'm going to work to get better. So that was part of it. The second piece was I always had that long-term vision. So what helps me move the needle there, right? So if you look at 03 to 05, how much I wrote for T-Nation, I mean, we're probably talking, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking probably 40 or 50 articles. Every time I'm on...
That's at least, that's like more than 1 month.
Yeah. No, I was
two
crushing.
Yeah.
Like, here was my routine, right? Because I worked a lot Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Tuesday, Thursday, we got to go in a little bit later because we would like power lift and do our training. And then I'd have like an hour and a half. Literally get in my car. I'd eat my lunch in my car or driving, which I don't recommend. Don't do that. But like eating as I'm driving, I'd go to this coffee spot and I would write. And I did that almost every Tuesday and Thursday because that was like my outlet, right? And it allowed me to continue to cultivate, okay, my thought process, my philosophy. And that's where content isn't just for the end user, right? Like, if you're really doing content at a high level, it helps you refine everything you're doing.
We'll riff into that. I'm glad that you mentioned that. But
because it helps you streamline all your thought process. It makes everything clear, and it helps you when you coach. But yeah, that was the thing for me. It's like, this is going to keep pulling me. And so eventually I get out of there, and then I go and I do in-home in Indianapolis, right? Which, much better gig, very cool people. Right? Very cool people. When you're talking high-level docs, people with 9-figure net worths, it's not just cool that they're wealthy. I mean, they've got like this worldly wisdom, right? When they've been all over, they have homes in multiple states. They travel the world. You just learn a lot. Again, if you're willing to listen and open yourself up. So it was like all those things kept pulling me. And eventually I just knew, like, man, this is my destiny, right? And for me, it's always been about, initially it was, this is the thing, and this is why I got burnt out earlier myself. It was more outcome driven than it needed to be, right? It was about proving myself. I always had that chip on my shoulder of, I want to be the best writer. I want to be the strongest power lifter. I want to have the best gym. And it took me probably longer than it should have to just sit back and be like, yo, like, I've checked all these boxes, right? I've written all the articles. I've created all the products. I've spoke for all the biggest like companies and groups. Like, what do I have to prove? I've trained, all-stars in 2 different major sports. I've been successful, but I still didn't feel fulfilled on the inside. And it's because I was just chasing clout, chasing the outcome. And it took me a long time to figure out, like, I'm already successful. Why don't I just take a step back, enjoy it, and then spend less time worrying about myself and just put all that energy into my people. And immediately, everything was easier. It didn't feel like I'm like having to push. Now, like you alluded to, it's pulling. And now it's like easy.
See, right? I think
it's
that
easy.
If you can learn that sooner, this is why I think this conversation is so important.
Could I have had that when I was 34, 24?
But I think that this part of it is a personal development part of it, right? Because
for sure.
I was seeking, for me, it was seeking significance, right? I had all these traumatic things that were leading me to be like, no, like I'm great, I made it, good enough, like, and so you're always like, you do a thing and it's like,
Right.
no, I gotta do more, I gotta show everybody, right? Yeah. And the sooner that you can kind of, let some of that go, and then, and listen, the energy should, to me, right now, it's like the energy is like, great work, things I'm proud
Every
of,
day.
things I'm proud of, like,
Yes.
that's the marker, right? Versus like, I saw this, I'll interject with another Gary Vee story, but like this girl's like, I'm doing this and I want to get to 100 grand. He's like, why 100 grand? Why not 200? Why not 500? Actually, but why even, these numbers are irrelevant. Like
Right.
Why not like just do great work, be patient, because the thing is, what I realized is that like, when I was thinking that way, and look, if you have a business, I'm not saying like numbers are important. Like you
Yes.
got to know your P&Ls. Yes. Like you got, more money's got to be coming in than going out. You got to have your net margins. Those are important things, but you can't attach all this stuff to it. So on one side, you better know your damn numbers. You know what I'm saying? Like you better be tracking, just like you'd be tracking anything else to watch it improve. But attaching this like imaginary, like, hey man, like you're good, to some type of external outcome is wild, because you get there, and I've got there. Like I tell this story, but I'll repeat it again. I got to a place where financially, I was making more money than anybody in my family, right? Like ever. Sure. And nice car, this, that, the other. But I also was, going through a divorce. I had a shit show of a personal life. I would work so much because work was giving me something that, it was almost escape. Train
absolutely.
Work was escape.
Yep.
And I remember waking up one morning is when I got help, meaning I went to Wake Up Warrior, I started therapy, like all these different things, because I was like, dude, like on paper, and these things that I felt like are the significant things I'm chasing, where I can tell other people like, hey, I fucking made it with,
Yeah.
I was empty. I was absolutely empty inside. I remember waking up one morning and being like, pure depression, right? Like, because you have this realization like, well, this is here, but then this is also going on. Like,
you talk about a disconnect, right?
Oh yeah.
How it looks externally to like what your life looks like when you go home.
Absolutely.
And close the door. Then what does it look like?
And it was like, that was like, and thankfully, a very painful awareness that made me go and say, hey, I need help, which I think is a very powerful thing to do, is to ask for help. Took me a while. But again, right, like if you attach these, like when I have this car, this house, that this money is, like when you get there, then what? Like there's somebody has, again, that should not be the thing that is attached to your purpose, your fulfillment, your meaning, your daily happiness and all these different things. Because I promise you, you'll fall short. And there's, this is like one of the books I think everybody should read, but Man's Search for Meaning from Viktor Frankl. And the thing I just remember, I remember a lot of things from it, but this is one that stands out to me the most. And he talks about, Dan Sullivan talks about the gap. The gap is like when you get there, the horizon is always moving, right? I made 100 grand. Okay, cool. Now I want to make 250. Now I want to make this. Now I want to get this house. Now a bigger house. Now I got to get, like, it's forever moving. So if you're chasing the horizon, you're feeling the gap. You're always feeling the gap, no matter how well you do, right? And there's this lesson about, looking backwards, and that's where Viktor Frankl's quote comes in, where he's like, always remember and appreciate the things that you've accomplished, the hard things that you've overcome, and like, again, acknowledge those things, and like that should fill you up. But then at the same time, look forward to like how you can improve and push yourself and challenge yourself to be better. In that space, he calls positive anxiety, right? And that was like, I remember, because I studied a ton of Dan Sullivan stuff, strategic coach stuff, and like that came up, and I was like, oh man, this sounds a lot like Viktor Frankl stuff. I went back, read the book, I found that thing, and I was like, okay, this is making more sense now, right? To be able to be like, hey man, like it's good to look at your wins and victories. We teach our clients this stuff, right? Build confidence, build self-esteem, but strive for more, because we are, again, like the infinite game. It continues, right? So the sooner that you can figure that out, and you might be listening to this and going like, I don't know what the fuck this guy's talking about.
These guys are old. Why are they talking so much?
But again, like if it resonates with you, like hopefully it does, and in some of these kind of like points that we're bringing up, you'll start seeking out, the people and the communities and the knowledge around this, because it is a game changer, and I would love to tell you. I mean, look, you look behind if you're watching video, and this is like a third of my library, right? Like, there's a lot of X's and O stuff, but I actually feel that I got more out of and get more out of these principles of life, I love that. You read Ray Dalio's Principles? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so excellent, right? It's like, it's these principles, right? Yep. These are the lessons and principles that you live by, that you apply. And I think that what we're sharing, hopefully is for people to be like, these are principles.
Yes.
Plug them into your life however you want to, but notice that like we're not, currently talking about like whether it's better to use a trap bar deadlift or a straight bar deadlift off the ground, even though both of us don't use a straight bar.
Well, okay. So I just want to interject one thing. Like, I think it's really important to note, like, the sooner you can, like you alluded to, it's not that outcome-based goals aren't important, especially if you're running a business, you need to know that, but just marrying yourself to the process.
Correct.
And when you start to do that, immediately you eliminate so much anxiety from your life, right? Because, I mean, I've been incredibly anxious a good portion of my life, right? And it wasn't until like the last 5-10 years it really helped kids. Believe it or not, actually help, right? They give you some perspective. But man, just being able to say, look, yes, I want to get here, right? Like, that's the goal. But also knowing, like, it's not going to happen overnight, but as long as I'm tethered to the process, I'm going to get a little better every day. It's the slight edge principle, right? Kaizen, however you want to think about it, 1%. I mean, I'm just going to do a little bit every day. We talked about it with the attendees over the weekend. Listen to a podcast, watch a video, take 20 minutes and review that course. Look into mentors, coaches, people that can help guide you. Like, it's not home runs, right? It's not Moneyball. It's like, hey, what are little actionable things I can do every day that move the needle?
And you know what? Like, this is such an important point. Let's legitimately make it a real applicable tactical thing, right?
Yep.
For what you're currently saying, right?
Yep.
And for example, I know like anxiety is like energy being used up. You're thinking about the future. Oh my God, I should be here. Like, I only got this many clients, but I should have this many more. So you're spending that energy and time throughout the day just worrying about like where you should be and this, that, the other, right? But if you're like, okay, look, today I got 5 clients. Man, I'm going to make an unbelievable experience for each one of them. Yes. And you prepare, I always talk about these 4x6 cards. Prepare how you're going to show up. You can do a little something wow for them. And then you're going to ask everybody for a referral. And then you're going to go you're going to spend 30 minutes contacting all your past leads, giving them an offer to come in, 3 training sessions on you, right?
Yep.
And maybe 1 or 2 of them bite on that, right? And then you're going to go and study Mike's stuff for 30 minutes, right? And again, you break down your day. And like, you are where your feet are, right? And you go to yourself, listen, let me like for 30 days, let me challenge myself. All I'm gonna do is be completely zoned in at the best of my abilities with the thing that I have, right? And what people will find will go like, I didn't do anything crazy. I didn't run Facebook ads. But man, like I got 6 referrals. I signed 3 of them up. Oh my God, like I make an extra $1,000 a month, right? From that. Also, my clients are so excited about like their results. They're wowed. I feel like I've started changing my programming a little bit because I've studied, 4 to 5 hours of programming this month in little chunks from the cert or from this podcast or whatever else. So again, that's an example. Like, you engulfed yourself in a process. Say, listen, let me prove myself wrong. Prove yourself wrong. Then, like, hey, is you thinking about the future and where you should be doing? Is it better than you just going like, you know what? Let me do 30 days of this and just focus on the process and like what these old dudes are saying, and see how it goes. But it's like, I've done business coaching now for almost 11 years, and it's like every time somebody actually buys into that, they go, holy shit, best month ever. I'm like, okay, cool. Did you do anything crazy? Like, did you have to hire somebody to do your videos, this, that, the other? It's like, that's somewhere in the path. But no, all you did is like, you started focusing on a thing that's like right there. And this corny ass process that we're talking about, and because you were doing that, like your effort and your results from that were so much better, right? And that's, by the way, like, I know that as things grow, I got more businesses, I got more stuff going on. I continually have to work on that. Like, there's certain areas right now that I'm like, man, I'm not where my feet are enough, right? I got to do a better job of that, right? So don't believe that like it's like you get it and then that's it.
Yeah, no.
It's just like once you're scoring 30 points at the YMCA, once I put you with the D1 guys, you're scoring 6, bro.
Right.
You gotta level up,
There's
right?
levels.
Like, and so I think that's a really, really big thing that if you can, again, you know, take people. This is what I love listening to still, you know, podcasts and people and books. You know, whether it's Kobe, where he's just the process all day long. It's like the journey is the dream. You know what I mean? And once you like actually viscerally understand that, like it's a game changer.
Yep.
Right.
But here's the other thing: if you don't get it, you're never going to get to where you could.
Correct.
That's what's sad too.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? If you can't wrap your head around this, and at some point, if you can't just marry yourself to the process and love that journey, you're not going to get as far as you should, and that's sad too. So you have to kind of get your head wrapped around that. Like, look, man, this is not like there's not in game.
No.
Right? You and I talk about this all the time. There's not just, oh, I'm here, I'm done. Kick your feet up. That never happens, right? Because once you get to a certain level, then you're exposed to better people. And just like you said earlier, right? Like, oh, damn, I suck. Now it's like, oh, my new suck, right? I was here, now I'm here, but now I feel like I suck again. That means you're in the right room. Yes. Hopefully they're not doing that in like a rude kind of way. It's like a self-realization of like, no, this is a new level. Now I got to get here, right? And then you get a better circle. And that's how it works, man. That's how you evolve. But
because would you even want to? You know, there's a stat that was like that. No matter whenever you retire, right, you got 9 years to live.
I've heard that.
That's a statistic, right? So it's like this idea that you get to a place and then things become just super easy. I mean, they become smoother, like because if your skill set is a high level enough, right? It's just like somebody goes like, dude, you put up 3 posts. Like I get frustrated like doing 3 posts in 3 days.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, it's the skill set. I've just done it so much that it doesn't stress me out. Like I'm not stressed out by it.
Yeah.
But you have to practice to get to that skill set. But would you ever want to be done anyways? It's just, why would you want to? You don't want to leave the game.
Dude.
No,
I would be miserable.
The game changes, right?
Yes.
When you got kids, the game changed. But it's like you're still playing the game.
Yeah.
It's just a different type of game, you know. And to me, that like, you know, what's really interesting when you said if you don't get like the process, like, man, you're always going to be behind.
Yes.
This is what's sad, but like, it can, you know, if you get it, this will change the game for you. There is, you know, people like, they're looking for the secrets. They're looking for the thing. And the thing is, there is no thing. Like we share, like we share everything, right?
Yeah.
There is. The problem is that 99% of the people don't believe it. So when you don't believe, right, then you don't do. Because it's like, no, that guy that's made it, there's something that he knows that I don't know.
Yeah. The secret
you know what I'm
sauce, right?
He knows these people that I don't know that I can get access to. So again, like this belief is blocking you, right? And that's why you can't, because it's like, man, I'm not special. I just work really hard. You know what I mean? Like I'm a kid from Slovenia that like, I was like, I'm hard-headed. I mean, if I have a superpower, that's it, right? But I think that's an exciting thing. You know, I tell people, I'm like, man, like you can do unbelievable things, and also too, like, you know, for everybody that's listening to this from around the world, you'll kind of get this, but like, you know, in America, like legitimately, everybody has opportunity. Like if you're willing to put this work in, there are places in the world where it's significantly harder. You know, even with, you know, even if you have the knowledge and you have the desire, it's still significantly harder to make things happen. You know, and I acknowledge that because I've lived in places like that. I grew up in places like that. And so if you're in the U.S., man, there is no damn secret. And we live in a world where we started, think about this. You know, T-Nation was the shit. You know, Elite FTS was the shit because it was like, you know, I'd read hours sometimes per day of these are the best coaches in the world. I'm going to learn from them, right? But now it's like online courses, social media, podcasts, YouTube. I mean, everything is free. Like if you have the time and energy to be able to learn and then, you know, learn it and then go and apply it, right?
Yeah.
Man, like you don't need, honestly, like it's not like you need all this money. You just need time and energy to be dedicated to that stuff. So I think that's exciting.
Yeah.
That should be an exciting thing rather than something that's like stressful.
Well, here's the crazy thing about now. You get to pick the medium.
Correct.
Right? Video was not a thing in 2003, right? So even if I could just kill it on camera, right? I'm like the best looking dude ever,
Flip
six-pack ad,
cam.
wouldn't matter. Wouldn't matter, right? Because video was not a thing. Audio wasn't a thing. I'm still streaming Napster in 2003, right?
Yeah.
Just stealing every song that I like. Like, look, I hated English, right? Like, if you know me, I'm a science, like, nerd, science, math. That's the way my brain thinks. How on earth was I getting articles published? Like, it's still mind-blowing to me. I got paid to write articles, and I was the worst author on the planet. I just wanted it, right? So I read everybody's stuff, right? I'm like, oh man, this person does this really well. So now I'm a consumer, but I'm putting it into practice. The more I write, the easier it gets. Now, like you just alluded to, video's not stressful for you, right? Because you've done it so many times. You know kind of how to make it work. You got to go through the ugly phase, right? It's like the adolescence of whatever medium you choose, written articles, podcasts, blogs, doesn't matter. Go through, right? Go through the ugly phase, put in the work. It's not going to be pretty up front. Like that's something too, like some of my favorite people on like Instagram, YouTube, people that have massive followings. They'll be like, yeah, look at how many posts I have, go all the way to the top, find the first, watch that video, and you'll see there is no secret here, right? I just screwed up so many times. I put in so much time, so much effort. I continue to learn. Now, boom, this is where I'm at. There is no secret sauce.
Nah, man, because you did, I mean, you have, at least give me a tentative. Like, how many articles have you written?
I mean, okay, so if you
It's,
go
I mean,
to...
it's hundreds and hundreds.
I mean, I think it's actually more. If you include like blogs, because remember,
yeah,
blogs,
yeah, no, you're on
young
blogs.
people, blogs, web, blog. Insane. I'm not kidding, Luka. I think I've created over 1,000 written pieces of content between articles, blogs, newsletter. I mean, I'm not even counting newsletters.
No, I'm not. No, because
thousands of pieces of written content.
The reason why I ask you this question is because of that, right? Like I did email marketing for 13, 14 years straight, didn't miss a weekly email, right?
Yes.
Like that was, I mean, calculate that, right? Like that's 1,000-ish emails right there. I have like probably a couple hundred blog posts, right? Which means that you for sure have over 1,000. And you start looking at that and you go on body of work, right? And whether it's like, you know, now I have a couple co-written books that I don't really count, but like now I got a 500-page book that's coming out. A year and a half of work on that. Hundreds of podcast episodes between two podcasts, hundreds of guest podcasts, right?
Yep.
I think I have 10,000 videos combined somewhere,
Sure.
you know, and it's like in Facebook posts, this, that, the other. The reason why I bring this up is because I guarantee you from Mike, you know, the first 100 articles, you know, you weren't getting paid for it or asked to write or whatever else, right? Like, I mean, my first 135, actually combined with the other one, 200 podcast episodes, thousands of posts. I didn't get asked to write an article until like article 85. Somebody asked me to write an article for a site that was getting traffic. Didn't get paid for it, by the way.
Right,
you know, but
it
was like, the reason why we bring this up is because it is so important to understand that like there is absolutely no way of getting there without that process and that work. Like, you know, and I don't know how, you know, your approach was. Like one of my approaches for writing that I still to this day kind of take is if I like a writer, I started mirroring how they wrote, right? Mm-hmm. So I would write
copywriting technique, right?
Absolutely, yes. So it's like I would go. I remember back in the day, it was like Bornstein Romanello, and I'm like, oh, I like the way that they write, and or Nate Green, who's a good friend of ours. Yeah. Nate was and is an incredible writer, and he was cool because he'd help me out with it too. But I would legitimately go like, this is his headline, this is his subheadline. Then he has subheads in the blog. I'm going to copy that exactly. He's got this many words. So I would just literally take the format and then write my own stuff about a topic in there. Because I'm like, I like this format. If I just copy the format and then insert my own stuff, it can't be that shitty. So
there's formulas to all of it.
Correct.
Right?
You know what I mean? Same thing. I came across Andrew Chaperone and Ben Settle in email writing, right? And I was just like, 250 to 350 words. You know, before I was doing like these really long emails.
Right.
Then I start doing them, it's a little bit more edutainment. And I'm like, what are they writing? How are they writing it? Okay, cool, I'm going to write that. Subscribe to their newsletter. Okay, whatever they write, I'm writing the same thing, but about different topic, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, and now you do that 100 times, guess what? Ask me to write an email. You know, like, boom. done.
10 minutes later, done.
10 minutes later. Article, like, right, a while back, Sean was like, you can write these articles for on it, like more SEO articles, could pay.
Yeah.
And I hadn't written like a lot for article stuff, right?
Yep.
And like, I'm ripping, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I send that back to him with videos. He's like, what the, huh? How do you get this done so, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
we get a guy that needs to write this for this long, a video take this long, and like, it's just that something that used to be hard, right? That new levels, that you look at the old problem, right? You go, right now you haven't wrote an email and it feels like the world,
Right.
Oh my God, I'm gonna spend 2 hours writing this 300 word email.
Yep.
While we're over here like knocking them out. But that's the thing, you know what I mean? It's just like when you give Jordan the ball, you're like, hey, give this guy 10 in a row.
Right.
And it's like, it's nothing to him, right? But it's all the stuff underneath that they got him there. And the thing is, like, the longer that you're pausing right now on doing this shit, the longer it's gonna take, for you to get good at it. And it doesn't have to be an either or, because here's the thing too, right? Every single coach that I know that's done really well with media is like, said, man, if I wasn't coaching, it'd be really hard for me to do media stuff because I wouldn't know what the hell to talk about. I just been making shit up.
Yeah.
So you wrote, all the articles that I read. I remember the first article that was like, oh shit, I got to learn from these guys, was Neanderthal No More on T Nation from you and Eric. And it's like, you were writing that through the lens of, I'm coaching people, here's what I see. Right? And the same thing on Instagram. It's like, oh, here's stuff that I'm doing with my clients. Here's things that I'm finding out. Here's this, that, the other. Vlogs we'll shoot today. It's going to be about real world shit that we're experiencing. And it's just like, hey, here's some stuff that's going to help you out. So again, like, you have the knowledge, even if you're not like at, like the elite level, whatever you think that is. If you've coached clients, even for 6 months, for a year, for 2 years, you got experience from helping those people out. Talk about those things. Like, you have it, but you got to start doing it. It's not an either or. And the more you have to start writing about it and documenting it and doing videos on it, the better you become as a coach.
Absolutely.
It's like
it's this beautiful like upward cycle.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah. So
I mean, okay, I'm going to go back to these because we riffed on this, man. Whoo! I want to start with you on this one. What's your favorite moment in your coaching career?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Hey, listen, that's your question. Shit.
Man, we can talk like clout moments, right?
Yep.
Like Roy Hibbert being an all-star, that's pretty cool. Being in Indiana, loving the Pacers growing up, that's cool. Seattle Sounder, Chad Marshall, put in the work. I mean, he was a world-class player before I ever got to work with him. They all are, right? It's not like we make them. But seeing him win an MLS championship, MLS Best 11, Defensive Player of the Year, like fucking boss. I can say things like that. Can I give you something? Oh, one other one, Ed Sumner, coming off that Achilles, coming back, getting a contract, playing at a high level. Things like that, I'll never forget. But my favorite coaching moment isn't even on the gym floor. So I coach my kids, right, in sports. Kids are very important to me. Family's important to me. And last year was, unfortunately, the last year I got to coach Kendall in soccer because she continued to level up. Now she's in a travel program. But man, we got this team last year of soccer girls. And I don't know how it is here. I don't know if it's less crazy in Seattle than it is in Indiana. These people are psychos.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right? Like, they got the same team together from when they're first grade to whenever. So they've got literally these teams that have played together forever. Well, we don't have the team that's been together forever. I got a couple girls. I literally get the 14 cast-offs, right? So all these girls are used to, being, the person that never plays, or they're not part of the team, or they're on the outside looking in. So we have this ragtag group. I thought they were awesome. Like, just an amazing group of girls, right? And you could see week one, we were awful. Like, we were awful. We were so disorganized. We didn't play well. And you could literally see this shift and this evolution over the year, right? And I don't claim to be an amazing soccer coach, but man, I put a lot of time and energy into them. Did my best. Like, we're very positive people, right? When we're coaching, like lifting people up. I did my best to do that because I think youth need that more than ever, right?
Agreed.
It's hard to be a kid right now. Invested everything I could in them, and man, just watching this evolution, it was weird because there were teams better than us, right? Especially at the start of the year, but as we kept going, I'm like, no, I think we could win like our little championship thing. And just every week we got better and better. Like, we played a team middle of the season. It was like 4-4. Like, no, we're better than this team. We played them in the playoffs. Fucking smacked them. 8-1. All right, smacked them. You know, and we did. We won a championship. And it was like one of the coolest moments. You know, stuff like that. Cade's basketball team this year started off 0-5. Bro, we lost our first game 48-12. We lost our second game 22-4. But man, it's so much fun investing in those kids and seeing them level up. We won 2 out of our last 3. Won our last game of the year. You would have thought we won the NBA championship. Those kids were so pumped because some of those kids played all of last year, never won a game.
Yeah.
And game 5 this year, we haven't won. They're thinking we're going to go an entire season never winning. So like for me, as cool as it is to do what we do, man, just seeing the joy in like a kid's face, hard to beat.
Yeah.
Hard to beat.
And I would say that, like, I think that that's part of what, when people say, why are you still coaching so much? You know, and I think that's part of it. Is like to be able to almost confirm your beliefs. So what I mean by that is, like, you know, when you get a team, or, you know, for me, I'm fortunate, you know, train pro teams and elite guys, and then high school, you know.
Yeah.
And same thing, like we came in 4th in the state this year, haven't even been to state for I don't know how many years. And it was like, man, like that was, you know, the progress rewarding of that is it just feels so good to be part of that. And any type of, you know, of course there's a lot of people involved. But even on the process of, like, you know, you get somebody that has like these ideas of where they could get to, you know, and I'm always like, you will never find me be like, yeah, you can be pretty good. Like, I'm always like, dude, like, you could fucking like do whatever you want to, you know, like, I mean, it's like, okay, you're, you know, 55, you probably won't go play in the league, but it's like, I'm always speaking these, like, you know, almost crazy beliefs into people. Like, man, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you know, and I think this is so important. But then, Tim, what really fires me up is after a while, because it takes time, right? A year in, a year and a half in, 2 years in, 3 years in, it's like, they achieve a thing that confirms my beliefs and it breaks theirs to, you know, and like I got, you know, a set of girls that I train that are like, I mean, they're like between 120 and 145 pounds, you know what I mean, and they're deadlifting 350 trap. I mean, like, I got video, you know, people are like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I got pro guys, these girls are lunging the same, you know, it's like wild shit. But it's like, I'm always just like, nope, we can do that. And we just kind of keep chipping away at it, chipping away at it. And to that feeling, seeing them be like, oh my God, I did it, you know. But not about, again, it's not about the external thing. It's about the belief. You know what I'm saying? You
believed in them more than they did. To the point where now they believe in themselves.
They caught up. See what I'm saying? It's like they start catching up to what you believe. And you know, I remember this story from Martin. Like, I've known Martin Rooney for forever, and like legit, it's like fucking Highlander. You know what I mean? Like, we've known each other for centuries. But I always remember, you know, I'd go through all this Parisi Speed School DVDs, you know, because back then, like, they were like the
VHS
authority.
tapes.
It was like the authority on, like, you know, speed, and be like they were crushing the combine with the guys always. And I was like, man, like, what do you know? I've studied all this stuff. I've studied, you know, again, I was looking for the secret. Right? I was looking for the secret. And he was like, let me tell you the secret. Like, you believe in them so much that they start believing in themselves. Like, that's it. Like, your behavior, your talk, your speech, your aura, your body language, like your stories, like everything is like belief. It's like, no, you can do this. And then at a certain point in time, they start believing the same thing, and then all their behaviors start aligning with it. Hold up. Well, shit, I should probably, if I really can run this fast, I should probably go to sleep, because that's going to help me run that fast, and I should eat better, and so to, like, for any client, every client, when I start seeing that, it is like it's a surge of, like, it's like drugs, you know what I mean? And it's, you know, and seeing them start having like this, because the thing is, like, this self-esteem that spreads into every area of their life. And like, if I could have a study and stat, by the way, right? I have like multiple clients in my head right now, right? There's a client that I started training a long time ago. He's a general manager, part owner of a company. It was doing $4 million a year. By the time we stopped training, because I started doing a lot of other stuff and we couldn't line our schedule, that company was doing $32 million a year. he made, put it this way, he made significantly more money from that,
Right.
obviously, right?
Right.
And I go like, there's clients I'm training right now that since I've been training them, you know, they've tripled their salaries, quadrupled their salaries. And again, listen, not to be like, I mean, shit, maybe that's a pitch. Come train with me, you'll make a lot more money. But here's my point here is this, right? They got fitter, they got stronger, they were challenged, like they were doing really uncomfortable shit. Like, you know, it's like when you're pushing them and it's like, oh my God, everything, you got this, you know, and it's like every week they would come in and they would override this belief about something they can't do.
Yep.
Then it's like all of a sudden I'd get this like, hey, I know we talked about it a little bit, so I just went in and I was like, here's the stuff that I've done. I believe I deserve a raise because of it. Boom, like 30 grand, 40 grand more a year, right?
Right.
And it's like, it goes everywhere. Self-esteem is not just in fitness. Self-esteem is in how you look, feel, perform, how you show up and everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, that's like a superpower. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And when you can see that, like at what point in time do you get tired of that? Like fucking never. Like I never get tired of that. I'll never get tired of that. And it's like, you know, people come in and out of your life and there's new people that you get to help and it just never stops. And it's like, that's not I would say frustrating. It's the opposite way. Like it's exciting. It's almost like it starts. The journey continues to start. You know, I have these food dogs, right, that I've tattooed on my arms, and it's like the beginning of the end. You know, and it's like the end of something is the beginning of something new. And that's how I look at it. It's like always new opportunities. And if you operate that way, I believe, you know, this stuff never gets old, right? You keep learning, you keep applying. You keep improving, you know, things change, but that doesn't mean it's bad.
Right.
It's just the evolution of yourself and you keep reinventing yourself. Listen, I still want to, it's funny because like we went probably through like 2 or 3 questions. But I know, hey, listen, there's 2, no, I want to cover these 2 that you brought up. We'll do this one last. Let's go, advice that social media hates, but that's 100% real. Whew.
Social media hates, it's 100% real.
Yeah. I'm throwing you this alley-oop right here, buddy.
Look, here's the problem with social media, right? Everything is a quick fix. It's a hack. It's one thing. It's not the process. It's not where the one thing fits in the grand scheme. Just like, I don't know. Like, that's what sells on Instagram because it fits like the ADD personality and fits what you want, right?
Yeah.
If I get on IG, I'm not looking to like reshape my life. I just, my knee hurts. I want to figure out, hey, untwist my knee so it feels better, right? You know, give me a hip flexor stretch because my quad's tight, you know? But that's not how life works, right? And I think one of the things that's frustrating, I don't know if I'm going to perfectly answer this question. Should have done a better job of asking my questions for myself. But like, when it comes to life, when it comes to training, coaching, whatever, it's all about context. I feel like we talked about context a lot this weekend. What may work great for one person is going to work awfully for the next, right? So you got to kind of know all the rules of engagement. When we were writing programs, it's like, okay, what are the list of limitations and constraints? Let's get that on the board now. So we kind of know what are the rules of engagement and where do we go from there. Social doesn't work like that, right? It's just like, hey, fix my knee. Hey, fix my hip versus, hey, man, here are all the things that you probably need to consider before you do that one thing.
And the thing is about it too that because of that, there is, you know, because you want to go on social media and you kind of know the rules of engagement, right? Like, I think all of us, like, we want to educate. We understand that, like, oh, this might do better on social media, and so we put it on there. But it's impossible to give all the context, right? It's impossible. Like,
you can't.
You can't. It's absolutely
like
impossible.
literally, it limits you from doing that.
And so then, you know, I was just watching Ben Bruno's thing, and somebody goes like, "Oh, your client's left lat's tight. You should never have him pressing overhead." It's like, oh my God, here you go. Like, you know what I mean? Thank you, troll.
Thank you, internet expert.
Yeah, like, thank you, troll. You know, but it's exactly what happened. Like, I've become completely like numb to this stuff. You know, especially the Facebook stuff, which is blown up, and people are just commenting, like, and being, you know, saying like wild shit. And of course, like, it makes no sense to go back and create context because they're not going to take it. But again, I think that this is more so for the people that are, one, listening to this, educating, and or consuming, right, on social media, is And by the way, if somebody asks me the context, I appreciate it. Right?
Yeah.
If somebody goes in the comments and goes like, "Hey, what about this? What about this?" I'll
have a
answer.
discussion.
I'll
cool with
I'll
that.
DM it and start having a conversation, right? But to me, it's like, educating in snippets is fine, and you don't have to give all the disclaimers, because again, like then it just becomes copy of disclaimers and stuff like that. But just understand that, like what Mike said, to break the rules, you got to relearn the rules. We talk about principles so often here, that if you understand the principles, you can enhance your education through social media, short or long, right? Because if I went through Complete Coach and you understand R7 and you understand the frameworks you're looking through and you understand expansion and compression and these, now when you see something, you can go like, oh, this is a great tool. This is a great method. This is a great exercise I can add to the things that I'm doing. And because you know the rules, you know the principles, you know the context, like you're learning and you're winning. Otherwise, it just becomes like, cool shit.
Yeah.
Right. And again, look, I'm trying to give the framework for if you are a coach and you're learning from somebody, or if you're a coach and you're educating, like these are the things you got to know to get the most out of it.
Yeah.
Right. Because otherwise it's very, very easy to get lost. Because man, like this, I would say that this is a problem. Because it's like, oh, I'm going on social media to get my education. But what you're not doing is you're not learning the principles.
Yeah.
Right? You're not learning the depth. And like
you're just learning tips and tricks.
Correct.
Right?
Tips
like
and
that's
tricks.
what you're learning.
And it's like depth is needed. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like there's not enough depth happening. And I guarantee you, like Chase is nodding, because it's like, okay, when you're doing video, when you're doing this, when you're like, you gotta have depth. Yeah. Right? Otherwise you become the person that's like the circus trick pony, and it's just like it's all like, let's go viral, let's do this, let's do crazy stuff. But the truth is, I believe in like education through social media, like podcasting, the videos. Like I think it's awesome to be able to do that. But again, what's difficult is scarce, and what's scarce is valuable, which means that like writing 1,000 articles makes you really good at understanding and communicating, doing thousands of videos, going and studying like the principles of adaptation and training, and then learning from the best coaches in the world and how they do their things. That gives you depth. Then you can use, like I said, these rules of engagement on social media to enhance, right? And I feel like that's a very, very important thing, because I think that, the answer to like, what do I hate on there is, number one, is that people talk over each other, and there's not like unfortunately, there's not enough people that just go like, like if you do wonder why they're doing that, ask it in a respectful way. Like, don't be disrespectful.
Sure.
Don't do anything that you wouldn't do in real life. I mean, at the end of the day, like, we're humans and we communicate, and it's hilarious to me that like, you go on social and like you'd never communicate with somebody like that in real life, right?
Ever.
You wouldn't have that tone. You wouldn't be a dick because you'd probably get slapped. Like, there's things like that, and it's like, and also you just wouldn't, you in real life, that would a person be like, I don't want to talk to this person. I don't want to engage with this person. So, bringing like the real human being on there and looking through that lens will help you be better on social media. And I think that there's too much judgment, and it's like it doesn't matter which way it goes, right? Like it's like the experts, are judging other experts, and the people they're asking them questions. Like, man, just be more human, man. Like that's, I would say be more human.
That's like a universal truth. I would say other things to just help you navigate that landscape. When you're young or when you're first starting, there's probably going to be a lot of consumption. Make it a goal over time to create more than you consume. And something we talked about a couple times is people are always like, oh, what do I talk about? What do I create? Like, it's like this, from the ether, and you're inspired and you create. No, it's like, oh, that conversation I had the other day with the client who has the knee issue. Okay, that's my next post.
Dude, think about like, so the vlogs that we're going to create today.
We're literally things we talked about this weekend.
We're creating them because of, these are the things that you taught because of the clients that you have that you've helped, and we're just sharing it.
Yeah.
Right. So legitimately, we're like, oh man, that was great. Let's do that. Let's do it in a shorter format. Like, let's talk about this. So you just have to get out of your head and be like, somebody else has talked about it. Well, Mike Robertson's already talked about this, right? But it's like, you know what? But the people that are following you, not Mike. And And it's like, and maybe your message resonates better with them because they like you or they don't know who I am or Mike, whatever, right? Like that's your circle.
Yep.
And you're going to say it differently than I will, than Mike will. And there's a power in that because you're one of one, and that's powerful, right?
Yeah.
So just know, again, because we repeated ourselves on this part of things, but I think that more of the good ones, the great coaches that are helping people need to share more of the content and the value.
Agreed.
Which leads me to the last one. I'm interested in this one, but biggest failure and what you learned from it.
23 years in now, this was probably year 21. Feeling pretty good about myself, right? And that's when my guy Ed Sumner, he'd been with me, I think, 2 or 3 years at this point. Mm-hmm. Best off season he'd had, right? This guy's like clockwork. When you talk about people that don't cheat the game, Ed Sumner has never cheated the game. He's there at 8 a.m., 5 days a week, does a session with me, gets in his car, goes to the basketball spot, does his hour-and-a-half session there. He does not cheat the game. So they start doing open runs. And legitimately, he sends me a text. I don't know what number in this queue I am, but before it even gets out, he's texting me, Mike, I just tore my Achilles. I want you to know before anybody else does. I don't know if I've ever felt worse on a day in my life. Like, ever. It was the worst feeling ever because this is a guy I care so much about. He believed in me, right? He'd spent time with me, and to have that happen crushed my soul. Mm-hmm. So at that moment in time, if you ever need kind of that karmic loop of, I better learn a lesson here, it's like, hey man, there's an opportunity to learn, right? And it's like, look, I want to be the best. That just recommitted me to the process of, I want to be the best coach I can be, right? Mm-hmm. I'll learn from everybody. Whoever has something of value in whatever space, right? I'm going to learn from them because I never want to have this feeling again.
Yeah.
Like, you just can't imagine it, right? You can't imagine how bad that feels. Maybe you can. You've had something like that happen, but it was the worst feeling I've ever had as a coach. But on the flip side, the fact that he texted me, he let me know, right? He trusted me to help him come back and help him rebuild. Man, that just like solidified and fortified me as a coach. I'm like, look, man, this guy's going to continue to invest. I'm going to pour everything I can into him. Bro, you best believe I was on PubMed that night, Google Scholar.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Achilles tears. I'm following what was KD doing? What was Dominique Wilkins doing? Dominique Wilkins might have one of the best return to plays ever from an Achilles tear. How long ago did Dominique Wilkins play, bro? 20 years ago? So what? He never hit me back. But I was hitting him on IG. I'm like, please, tell me what you did. Because he did something different. He came back and he averaged 30, bro. So, like, it just kind of re-energized me. Not that I was low energy, but it's like, wherever I was, now I'm on a whole nother level. Because, like, I never want to feel this again. And I'm going to put everything I can into my own education so I can continue to pour into these guys, man. Because, I mean, I love what I do. But, man, I never wanted to feel that again.
Talk about, like having a setback. And I know that because that feels like a setback. And there's nothing. I mean, when you feel like you've put in all that work, and because to me, it automatically becomes personal. Like, fuck, what did I do? What I didn't do. I felt
like the worst coach. Contract year coming up. I'm like, man, this guy's about to get paid.
Yep.
And then to have all that happen, worst feeling.
But what did it do? Like, it lit a fire under you to make you better.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Like that. I mean, I can relate to that. I got actually some stories like that. But I'll riff on. I mean, I'll go back to, for me, my biggest failures were personal failures. Also, too, like I'll bring those two up. One was my marriage, and like I fucked a lot of that stuff up, and it taught me more than, because it's like that failure taught me more about coaching. And let me show you why, right?
Yeah.
Because for instance, in the nutrition and fitness space, at that point in time, I was very much so like, man, like I have these clients, they're getting great results. I got these clients getting pretty good results, and there's a bunch of clients, I mean, good percentage that like aren't getting the results.
Yeah, sure.
They're not getting worse, maybe they're getting a little better.
Right.
But to my standards,
right.
like not where they should be, the word should.
Right.
And I would be judgmental, like, man, why are they doing this shit? Like, this is, simple, because I owned that space, and I was confident and had self-esteem and had habits and everything else in that space, right? But when I would say things in my personal life fell apart because of my own doing, by the way, right?
Yeah.
I started going like, why, I literally, had to come to Jesus moment. It was like, why do I do stupid things that like hurt my life, hurt people around me?
Myself?
Correct. Why am I sabotaging? And it was, so I go into get help and therapy, but the big things that started being like coming up for me as I was having these conversations, being asked certain questions, I was like, man, like our clients are struggling, and I'm struggling in areas, just like they are, and like it's hard, there's so much, like you're getting pulled this way, that way, like what? But then I'm judging them in another area. I have these same problems, maybe even worse in other areas, for any fit pros, it's like, hey, how are you with your finances? And a lot of people have really bad financial habits, right? But they'll judge the client in their fitness and nutrition habits, right?
Yes.
But they have the same problems in some other areas. So it made me significantly more compassionate and it's like, and that made me such a better coach, because instead of being like, having this subconscious frame of judgment, it became a curiosity frame, right? Like, hey, tell me a little bit more about this. Because I was discovering all these things about myself. Like, why did I do these dumbass things, right? Like, why did I mess things up? And it made me such like significant. It took me on a journey of like behavior change and psychology, and I did Byron Katie's the work. Oh man, and it's like I did. Shadow coach from Debbie Ford. I mean, like crucial conversations. I mean, everything you can imagine, I went into it and dove into it. And it was because of that. I was trying to discover myself. And in the midst of it, I was discovering, what other people are going through and better understanding them. Like, hey, put yourself in your client's shoes. Obviously you can't completely do it, but I was doing my best and like seeing through their eyes, essentially what I was going through just in another area of life. Now, listen, this story is not here to tell you to go completely fuck up your life in some way. So you learn. I would hope that but it goes back, full circle, because this was the last question that we wanted to touch on. To come back full circle, what I started with was get people in your life that become these mentors of life, right? Yeah. And I'm, that led me to that because I didn't have that and I lost myself. And it's like, it's very easy to go like, yeah, man, I'm making money and I'm like, enough people know about me now, blah, 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 right? But it's like, dude, if you don't take care of the human part and who you are, things are going to go wrong. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Can I ask you a follow-up to this?
Absolutely.
Because I'm really intrigued by this. Because I think we all do this at some level, whether we know it or not, right? We're subconsciously judging somebody about something, but it's also the same thing that we have an issue with. Yes. You know what I mean? Yes. Like you secretly loathe something about them, but it's only because you do it that it's so noticeable.
It's a projection. Yes. It's a mirror. So, I would highly recommend that two books that you read. One is Loving What Is by Byron Katie, and the Dark Side of the Light Chasers from Debbie Ford. Actually, Debbie Ford has excellent books. Another one is like Why Good People Do Bad Things, and it does tend to be that like. Somebody triggers you. So for example, I'll actually give you an example, by the way. Disloyalty, like I have loyalty tattooed on my body. It's one of my values, right? And so disloyalty like triggers me at a level that's
Do you speak Slovenian?
Oh yeah. I told Mike that like whenever I get really angry, I start speaking Slovenian. So that's when you got to run. But the thing is that I realized because I hated myself when I was disloyal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a trigger because it also kind of reminds me of like me breaking my own value and losing my own compass, right? Yes. So, and again, it could be, there's stuff like, give another example. I remember back in the day, me and Krebs were like, oh man, this guy, like, he's killing it, making so much money, but he's fucking out of integrity, right? And we were like, why are we getting triggered by this, right? And the trigger was because we weren't doing all the things to put us in that seat of, driving revenues and things like that. So we were triggered because that person, regardless of how he was running his business, it triggered us because we weren't putting in the same amount of effort.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so when you are triggered, for example, you're like, man, that person's success, da-da-da. What it is, majority of the time, is that it's your subconscious basically reflecting back to you like, you're not putting this effort in and this work in.
Yep.
And so what you do is you point a finger. Now you got to remember this. This is really important. Okay, wherever the finger points, that's where the power goes, right? So economy, government, friend, this person, that person, my boss. You're just giving away power. The moment you turn the finger to yourself and you go like, it's on me, right? Yeah. Now power goes back to you. Yeah. Now it might be uncomfortable, but you can change it. So
I gotta ask my question.
Come on. Oh, my bad.
Let me ask the question. Okay, so you're looking at these people, right? And you say like, oh look, no, like I've got a problem with this person, or they're doing that, or that, whatever. When you stopped doing that, right, and you stopped judging them, did you immediately feel better and stop judging yourself as much as well? Like when you give them that space to just be them, did the same thing happen to you?
Yes, because of awareness. Because I realized, because the thing is, judging yourself leads to judging others. Yes. Right? It's like, I mean, look, this will sound cliche and corny, right? But it's like, how do you fully love others if you don't love yourself, right? Like there's always, again, there's always blocks, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like you have to, just like you go like, man, they didn't know what, this, like I forgive them, right? Like, right. But you got to forgive yourself. Like it was the difference between shame and guilt, right? Yeah. Like guilt is like, guilt can lead you to a better decision. I'm guilty of making this decision and taking this action, but it's not who I am. See, shame, you believe you are a bad person, right? Like, yes. And so you have to be, because I was ashamed. When I went and sought help, and by the way, like I'm going to keep repeating this, seeking help, raising your hand, saying I need help. One of the most powerful things you can do. I need help with my business. I need help with my fitness. I need help with my personal life. I need help here, there. Like, powerful. It gives you power, and people are there to help you. So for me, I was ashamed, hiding it. Like, no, like I can't let the world see and know, like I got to pretend I'm this great, I got everything figured out, like, right. Because again, seeking significance. I don't want people to know I have all these problems, right? Yep. So the moment that I was like, I need fucking help, like this is all falling apart, and I had to, and somebody taught me about the guilt shame. And, it was like in Shadow Coach, I went through that, and it was like shit, I'm ashamed, like I didn't, because after that, I started talking about it, right? Mm-hmm. I would go on podcasts, I'd go on shows, I'd do videos, and it was very uncomfortable for me. I wrote an email, like, oh my God, what are people gonna say? And there were some people that were like, talk smack and this, that, the other, but it was freeing because it was like, that was my process of forgiving myself, talking about it and going like, yes, I made these mistakes, here's what I think happened, and dealing with it, and when you do that, like here's what was so amazing is that the more I shared of my pain and faults and everything else, the more people opened up and were like, man, like
it allows them to like
gave
really
permission.
Open up to you.
Absolutely. And it's like, and it gives your clients permission to open up, and now you can actually help them more. So this is the part that I really feel in coaching is just not talked about enough. It's like this human side, like becoming a better human, which part of it is, guess what? Forgiving yourself, loving yourself, not being judgmental, forgiving others, being more compassionate, more curious, right? Like all these different things that takes work and practice to develop. But the thing is like, how are you going to be a great coach if you don't seek out the things that you need to be better at coaching as a human being, right? And again, that might be therapy. That might be like, groups that help you be aware of some things, right? So this is, I think, the number one kind of contradiction is that most coaches, and like this again, trigger warning, if you coach, like, do you believe with your heart and soul in coaching and what it does for people, right? If the answer is yes, do you have a coach? So, and I mean, like, do you have a coach that you invest in, time, energy, money? Yep. And do you have a coach in the area that you're the most stuck in? Because this is, because it's, yeah, absolutely. I got it, man, I'm doing this program design course, and it's like, how good are your programs? I'm pretty damn good. Okay, cool. What area of your life are you like running away from? What area of your life are you like, I don't want to face it? That's probably where you need a coach. And the thing is, and that's going to make you a way better coach for your clients, right? When you go into the area of discomfort, like, hey, like business, people, they said profit and loss statement. Oh my God, I'm getting anxiety just hearing that word. You don't know your numbers. We talk about advertising, but you're running your own business and you're starting to like shake right now and pacify. That's probably an area that you might have to invest time, energy, and money in, because again, and you'd be like, well, how's that going to make me a better coach? Because you don't have good enough profits to make a better customer experience. You're always scarcity mode. Can you be a great coach if your bank account's in the red, you're freaking about the next day, you can't do continuing education? Hell fucking no. Like, you can't be the best coach. So all of these things are interrelated, you know, whether you like to believe it or not. And again, I believed up until that point in my life, bro, I've done every certification you can imagine. This, that, the other. What do you want me to tell you? You want me to tell you insertion points of this, that, you know?
Right.
But it's like, but I was not the best coach. I had a whole bunch of shit that was holding me back from being the best for my clients. So, you know, I would hope that our conversation today is making a lot of people feel uncomfortable, but it's going to make you do something, you know, be a catalyst for change. Because, like I said, I would hope that you don't have to go through certain things that we went through, you know, painfully. And you'd go like, okay, let me explore this. And now you don't have to have that, you know, that very painful, you know, wreck before you have a realization. As always.
Dude, this is great, man.
Dude, we could keep going. I mean, we didn't even touch on all the questions, but like that. But that was the case. That was the case. I knew that was going to happen. We would both love feedback.
Yes.
On this episode, because it was different, but I think it was what's needed. You know, and that was based on our conversations throughout the Complete Coach certification, which, by the way, I'm going to repeat that. You guys should check it out. Excellent. But seriously, like, I would love feedback. Send it to Mike. Send it to me through email, social media, because I think, you know, we can have some more of these conversations. And our goal and our mission is to help this industry and to help coaches elevate. And again, through all different realms of the skill sets that, you know, are needed to be great at this. And if you love this, by the way, this is an important one. If you loved it, share the show, you know, send it out, send it to your friends, send it to your coaches, because tag us in it. Because look, this is, I believe, the key, right? Like, when somebody sends me something and it's like, this is great, you know, it's like a referral. Like, hey, this is a great book, you got to read it, man. I'm reading it. So do that, and we'll see you next time in another episode. Peace out, my friends.
All right, my friend, that does it for this week's episode of the podcast. Really hope you enjoyed it. I mean, again, I share a lot of things there that I don't talk about very often, or just things that I think coaches need to hear, right? Like, too often now we live in this bubble. We look at everybody's highlight reel every day. We go on social media and we don't realize that every coach that has been doing this for an extended period of time has had some wins. I mean, they've had some major losses too. So sharing not just the wins, but sharing the losses, sharing what we've learned from some of those critical moments in our career. And I think at the end of the day, realizing that if you're in this for the long game, there's certain things you have to do for an extended period of time to be successful. There are no overnight successes. And a lot of times the people that you're looking at and you're looking up to have either spent an incredible amount of time doing what they do. They've spent an incredible amount of time working very, very hard, right? And generally it's a combination of the two. They're working hard for a long period of time, then they see the success. So these are just things that, you know, I think kind of get brushed under the rug in this day and age. And I want you to know that if you want to be successful, you got to think and play the long game to really get to wherever it is you want to go. So if you enjoyed this episode, I got a small favor to ask. Tag me, tag Luka, put this out there. Like, share this with other people, with other coaches, because I just want people to hear, like, it's not always, you know, like unicorns and balloons when it comes to coaching, right? Highs and lows, wins and losses. So if you would share this, if you would tag us, we would love it. We just want to spread our word and just let other coaches know that, like, look, regardless of where you're at, there's other people out there that are going through the same struggles. They're having the same issues. And ultimately, if you keep your head down and you keep working, you can see some pretty high levels of success in our industry. So, my friend, as always, thank you so much for your support. Love and appreciate you. And we'll be back next week with our next episode. Take care.